Welcome to MalcolmPresents.com, and our show is Democracy 2.0 with Wayne Bouchard. Wayne, take it away.
Well, Malcolm, I would just like to start out this week by, thanking you for giving me a little nudge to send that open letter to Senator Joe Manchin. I sent it to his office and I sent it to the New York Times, and lo and behold, look what happened. He has has capitulated, and now they're talking and coming up with some sort of an agreement on this energy plan. So I'm going to take 100% credit for that.
I'll give it to you. And all due to our show. It's amazing.
Yeah. The Times did not publish the letter by, but I did send it to his office.
I'll have to call them up and castigate them for it.
Yes, please tell the Times that they're. I don't know why they're picking on me. But they seem not to be very hospitable when it comes to my letters.
Well, they might know that you're doing a show with me, and there are rumors that they are anti-Semitic.
Okay.
Because they're trying to bend over backwards because they were Jewish ownership, but they didn't want to see, that they held us in favor. So blame me.
So let's get started. How about the Department of Justice getting involved in a significant way with the inquiry into the events of January 6th, before and after? I think yesterday, Attorney General Garland, or as a friend of mine refers to him as almost a Supreme Court justice, should have been a Supreme Court justice.
Right.
When he said that no one is above the law if they have tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, indicating that, they're looking into, these fake electors and other issues surrounding February 6th. And we know that they've subpoenaed and spoken with,
No, you're freezing, but continue.
Oh, they've spoken with Vice President Pence's chief of staff. I think his name is Mark Short, and also his chief counsel, a fellow by the name of Greg Jacob. So they've talked to them, and they're interested in these fake electors, and they also seem to be interested in talking to cabinet members about invoking the 25th Amendment. And they've spoken to an awful lot of people, and they're negotiating with the Director of National Intelligence to come in and talk, because, that's kind of a sensitive area with, classified information. But I think yesterday they spoke with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and they've also are either speaking with or have on the agenda several cabinet members that huddled together on January 6th and wrote a bunch of emails regarding President Trump's state of mind. And I guess the general consensus came out that since there were only 10 days left in his term, or so,
to let him go, to let
Yeah.
him.
How much damage could he let us lead us into? It was interesting also, Trump, I think it was yesterday, insisted on the fact that he had ordered 10,000 National Guard troops to the Capitol that day, and that maybe Nancy Pelosi stopped them from coming, and he went on and on and on about this, and then the acting Secretary of Defense came on and said no, he never received an order for 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th.
Yeah,
Just
well,
wasn't so.
I was of the opinion, especially because it's Washington D.C., that the only one authorized to command the troops would be the president. He's the only one that could authorize
Correct.
to come in, not even Pelosi or anyone else.
Correct.
Basically, the president.
Correct. I think Vice President Pence called the Secretary of Army, I think it was, and there was a whole big hoopla about that. But somebody ordered it was not Trump who ordered the National Guard troops. I think the acting Secretary of Defense, just let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really not that sure, but we'll find about it in the next few weeks. Find out about it in the next few weeks. But,
Yeah, so they're talking about these fake electors. In this meeting that occurred in the Oval Office, and I don't remember what day it was, specific day it was, but that attorney John Eastman was there.
Yeah,
and they were trying to strong arm Pence into agreeing with this fake elector scheme, and
Pence is coming out a hero.
yeah, he's coming out a hero. But I also heard they had on I think he was the governor of Ohio, Kasich.
Yeah.
And he said that Pence doesn't scare anybody. That's the problem he has.
Well, I don't know how much sway Trump has now, because he's lost a lot. I think he's lost a lot of credibility among the, not necessarily the ultra conservatives who love him anyway, but for the independents, because of what he did, not what he did, but what he didn't do.
What he didn't do. It was interesting that over the weekend, the not the Post, the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal both had editorials last weekend condemning his actions of January 6th.
Aren't both of those owned by Rupert Murdoch?
Yes, and
they're very conservative, and those have been
same owner as owns Fox News.
Yeah, but they were always pro-Trump, so it's
yes, very pro-Trump.
He won't be invited to Mar-a-Lago next time.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I like this. I don't know if you were aware of this, Malcolm, because I wasn't. This whole fake elector scheme that they've cooked up, had in its background some precedent from the 1960 presidential election between John Kennedy and Richard Nixon.
No, I don't think I was aware of that.
Huh?
I don't think I was aware of that.
Well, apparently the vote in Hawaii, and this was the first time that Hawaii was a state, so they had 3 electors. Apparently the vote was very close. The Democrats decided that they would have a recount, but in lieu of it, also in conjunction with the recount, they came up with their own electors. which they were ready to send. But in the final analysis, as the story goes, or as history has reported the story, Kennedy won by like 150 votes, 148 or something like that votes. And so they did, and the electors were signed off on by the new governor of the state, and so Kennedy was able to transmit his electors to whoever I think they transmit them to the National Archives, and I'm not sure why that happens. I have no idea, none whatsoever.
Well, I'm thinking that this whole system of casting the votes, of going to the Congress, seems to be very antiquated. I think it's like
Yes.
the times when, again, during that time period when we first became a country, that people had to ride by horseback to Washington. It could have taken days to get the report. Now we know, instantaneously.
Yeah, right.
And so it can be confirmed. So in actuality, we can have the election in November, November 7th, and appoint the president, by the next month. I don't know why they have to even wait till January, aside from the fact it's a new year.
And that's written in the Constitution, and to change the Constitution requires
yeah, but the Constitution is antiquated.
majority of the states to ratify it.
The only thing that I think that the changing of the Constitution wasn't good when they gave the women the vote.
There you go again, pissing off all the women.
Yep. I want to get letters and things, castigating me.
You're getting, when you're in your old age, you're getting like Steve Bannon.
Yeah, well, I haven't answered the subpoena so far that's been sort of like really lowballed.
I can't, I don't know if you're like me, but I can't wait for them to drag Steve Bannon off in handcuffs to jail.
No, I want to see them do that with Trump.
Well, let's take one at a time.
One bad man at a time.
One bad guy at a time.
Well, I think what's going to happen is not so much of the federal, to prove him, causing a riot or this or that. It's going to take a long, long time. And the problem is, if the Congress is changed during the 2022, they're going to drop the cases anyway.
Yes, but the Department of Justice will still be operating under President Biden, and the Attorney General will still be Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
The only difficulty will be that they probably, if it was a Republican House of Representatives and Senate, they would probably strip the Department of Justice of all kinds of money, and they wouldn't have any money to continue the case. But the purse strings are the only recourse that they have.
Case scenario: what would happen if the case drags on and is in court? Could he be nominated for president?
Yes.
2024, even though the case is still in progress.
Yes.
Now, if he's elected president in 2024, and then he's convicted on the federal charges, can he issue himself a pardon?
Well, you can't. You would have to be convicted ahead of time.
No. Let's say he was president now.
You can't convict a sitting president. So if the case dragged on to the election in 2024, and he ran for president and won the election,
yeah,
you would not be able to prosecute him any further. Prosecution would have to stop.
Yeah. Well, if he's convicted, but can you put him in jail?
Well, if he was convicted, he couldn't be president because it would be a felony. So he couldn't be seated anyway.
Oh, okay. I just thought about that. It could have been funny. But again, if he is if he's convicted of any federal crimes, if the Republican president comes in 2024, they'll pardon him anyway. But I think the thing is,
Problem.
which basically people always praise Trump for, is being a businessman and being an astute businessman. And the whole thing would be is if he gets the state of New York convicts
Mhm.
him of his shenanigans,
Right.
and
Then he'll be that's a civil case.
right. But I think
That's totally different.
but the shame of it.
Yeah.
In Georgia, it's a local, it's a federal. No, it's a state case where he's where he. Well, I don't know. In Georgia, I think he's the state is prosecuting him or
Correct.
investigating him.
Correct. But it's not a civil matter. It's not
No.
a financial matter. That's about the fake electors.
Yeah, and then I don't see why they keep on saying that that whole thing of the whole committee of saying that he didn't participate with the Russians in that election. I don't think that's been proven he's innocent. It's proven that uh, they couldn't particularly say he was, but they didn't say he was innocent.
Yeah. That's all. That's all water under the bridge. You can't bring that back up again.
I don't know. He has so much water under the bridge. It's ridiculous.
He always lands on his feet. Always.
Yeah.
Even in business, he filed bankruptcies after bankruptcies, and he still came out on top.
Well, he came out on top because he used that money, and he didn't have to pay any of the banks. See, the banks I don't really care about, tell you the truth.
I don't care if he stiff banks.
No, but what
That's
I
okay.
do care, it's all these independent contractors that he's
Yeah,
scared
he's
to do that
put
also.
so many people out of business. It's disgusting. But
But welcome to the presidency.
yeah, I looked at some information this week about our communications strategy and our and democracy. And I was reading up on some things, and our communications culture is tied to our democracy. Uh, and we think that the democracies can end up in several different forms of government. We have basically a liberal democracy, using the term liberal not as a political philosophy, but more along the line of its dictionary definition. But we could have an illiberal democracy, and what would happen to us then? In other words, we wouldn't have freedoms, we wouldn't have free speech, but we'd still have democratically elected officials. It's interesting to note that democracies can turn to fascism. Our fascist governments in the 1930s were derived from democracies. So,
could be a bit more specific. I'm not getting your flow.
well, Germany and Italy, for example, were democracies before they turned to fascism.
Well, actually, that was Trumpism.
Well, in order to have a democracy, we have to have an open communications culture, so that people can learn about what's going on and debate it. And, then they can persuade other people to follow them or not, and other people can change their minds and not follow them. But, communications cultures today, are shaped by technologies. Radio is a lot different than TV. Twitter is a lot different than TikTok, and Facebook is different than Instagram.
Yeah, it's a whole different way of reaching people.
But our political leaders are using all of these forms of communication strategies. And our political scientists, people that write about democracies and what happens to this election, what happened to that election, they spend all their time talking about the political structure, but the communication strategy gets very little attention.
Well, communications is the name of the game. I mean, it's what influence does Facebook have? What influences Google have? What influence all these mediums, the TikTok.
I forgot about Google, yeah. So we started out with TV. And I heard this guy explaining that, what is Sesame Street doing when it's teaching kids to spell? Is it teaching kids to spell? No, the ultimate outcome of Sesame Street is teaching kids that learning is fun. Education is entertainment. That's what it's teaching.
That's
so
true.
When they go to school now, if they get some old world teacher that's not into making education entertaining, they may have difficulty. So we have an entire generation growing up that thinking that education is supposed to be entertaining. Look at another example, John Oliver's news show. Great entertainment when it works, it's funny, but when it does, when it's not funny and it doesn't work, it's not very good. So television is the medium by which we're all we've all been brought up under now. And television doesn't necessarily promote rational discussion and rational thinking.
No, it's 30-second sound bites. Whoever
it's all about the action, the imagery,
right,
of what they're promoting. We started out in with telegraph and printing presses, and now look at what we have.
We have 24/7 news, which is I don't agree with, because most of the time you listen to the news, it's not news, it's opinions and it's fillers. And I mean, there's so much news. Like you have a shooting, and basically for the first 24 hours, everybody's taking guesses of what's happening.
Right.
Right.
One of the things about our whole society's communication strategy has changed. So the media now becomes a very disruptive force in our whole, on our whole outlook on life. You can get a lot of good things out of it. Look at the Arab Spring. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was a very positive outcome of the internet. But then on the negative side, look at Pizzagate. Everybody was led to believe that Hillary Clinton was running a sex trafficking scheme in a pizza parlor in
DC.
In Washington, D.C., and the place didn't even have a basement.
Wasn't she? No,
So, all this stuff has really complicated and it's very complicated and far reaching. And, one of the things that I never took into consideration is that our whole system of modern media, the technology that we're using, is very, very disruptive to our society.
yeah.
I criticize Facebook, Google, but, it's everything. It is everything.
Well, that's why, when the politician runs for office, he has to have a budget because they have to buy television and radio and print, mainly TV. And that's very expensive. And I don't know why it should be expensive because the airways belong to the public.
Right.
The supposedly the people who run the airways, they're leasing that particular frequency from the government. They should be required under their licenseship that they provide a certain amount of free national advertising to groups who have a certain percent, who are the top 2 or 3 candidates with a chance of winning, who have the most people that can win, and give it to them for free.
Right.
Because it's a government time.
Right. Well, that's this whole liberal philosophy, keeping democracy in check. We have to have that kind of a structure. Look at what's happening today in Hungary and Russia. Russia started out after the splitting up of the Soviet Union. I think Russia could have been considered some sort of a liberal democracy, and now it's a police state. Putin was very, very popular. He's still very, very popular, and he's a tyrant.
Because he controls the media in Russia.
But he's also a populist. There's a reason why Donald Trump thought that the guy in Hungary and Putin and the guy in Brazil were good people. Because that's what he wanted to be. He wanted to be he wanted to be the leader of a democracy, but he wanted to be a tyrant.
Well, yeah, that's a Trump. Again, as you say, he's the one who idolized the people who controlled the countries with an iron hand, an iron fist.
Right.
And that's what he wanted to do.
So the whole thing comes down to, and I know we're kind of running out of time. It's kind of a paradox,
We have a whole 2 minutes left.
It's kind of a paradox, we're in a democracy and we're being destroyed by our democracy from within because of its, the tolerances that we have on it. I want to get this in, this whole philosophy, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump philosophy of flooding the zone. What it is that, they just flood the networks. They hijacked our networks,
right,
and they overwhelm it with huge amounts of news and confusing news and news that necessarily is not true. And news organizations are supposed to be able to react to that and point out that these are lies and we're telling you the truth. But it's not working out that way.
No, that's Trump's whole thing, which people believe in, is misinformation.
Yes.
If that's the key word of the century right now, it's misinformation. We don't trust what we see or hear anymore.
So basically, every time that Trump unleashes one of his totally irrational, unhinged tweets, the media races after him, because, they're in this business for clicks. They're in this business for attention. So they're like, think of it as they're like a bunch of greyhounds, chasing a slab of meat.
Well, what I say is just read 1984, and they have doublethink. If you say something often enough, people believe it. It's
Right.
the election was fixed. I won the election. People believe it. They say, look at this. And even though the facts have proven them totally wrong, I still have people that argue, oh no, what about the elections and what about the briefcases that were brought into the election room, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and all
Right.
the workers went, they still talk about that.
So networks like CNN, MSNBC, and all of the other, ABC, CBS,
They're all
they
colluding.
all think they're all operating under the old model of journalism, that if they expose the lies, then everyone will be happy, and that
No, they're all colluding. They're all run.
they're exposing the lies, and half of the people don't believe them.
Well, as I've said once before, maybe it is time. We have to really revitalize and reorganize our democracy. We have to change, well, not the voting system per se, but how long the people are, stay in office. You can't have a senator that can stay for life. You can't have a congressman that could stay for life. And of course, you cannot have the Supreme Court staying for their life. Because life is too long now.
Someone introduced a bill today to limit Supreme Court justices' times to 18 years.
Yes, let's see if we can get that through. Anyway,
which would eliminate Clarence Thomas.
He recused. He did something today to Clarence Thomas.
Did he? Oh, I didn't hear it.
What it was.
I didn't hear it. I have had my nose to the grindstone.
Or did we recuse Ginny Thomas?
Don't know. So the ultimate question is for us to ponder between this week and next week is, what will be the future of our democracy?
Can we talk about that in a half hour?
Oh, sure. We can probably talk about that in the first 5 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
We can go on to some really interesting stuff after that.
So write a succinct, like two or three sentence paragraph to wrap it all up.
Okay, I'll do that.
And then we'll get the commercial. I'll speak to you next week.
I'll get that. All right.
Bye.
Don't you worry.
I don't worry. What me worried is call me Alfred E. Newman. For those who remember who Alfred E. Newman was. Bye.